Don't like it? Change it.
Hello everyone, welcome to IT BLOBS. Today we have a special episode as we have discovered that we are getting more attention internationally. And today's subject is about change management. This will be discussed between Kinga, Balinska and Drissen.
Morning, Kinga.
Good morning.
Good morning. We decided to have a podcast in English. We get more and more attention abroad, and we actually have a subject which I think you wanted to talk about. That's
Yes.
change management.
Yes.
Shoot. Maybe it's good we know each other, but say who you are, what you do, and then we can
Start.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Kinga. I study international business, and I've also been introduced to cultural management and change management there during my studies. So that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in hearing more about it.
Mm-hmm. And not forget, you do marketing for Maar,
Yes,
which
yes,
you're
that's
doing a
right.
great job. Let's change management. I guess you want to know what change management is, or let's start with that one.
That's my first question.
Yeah. Change management is of course a generic term. We do a lot of changes during the day. We do a lot of changes, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not helpful. In the context of the business we are doing, Armana Cloud is doing, it's basically the change which should be managed regarding the digital transformation, as we call it. So there are a lot of buzzwords in that definition. So I think we should go word by word. What do we mean with that? I think the first thing, digital transformation, where is that coming from? And maybe you study international business, so I have a question for you. When you talk about digital transformation and at the university, what do they say? What's digital transformation according to you?
Well, when I think of it, I think of just doing more digitally. That's first, and also using programs to make everything easier for you. Let's say that they do some things for you instead of doing it by yourself, by hand. So that's what I think about.
And I will let you in a little secret. We also did that in the 90s. No, but this is a good point you're making. Digital transformation, at least according to Armana, according to me, is not only using more software. The fundamental step is that basically your business processes, the way that you distinguish yourself in the market, becomes more and more dependent on IT technology. That dependency was also in the 90s and in the 80s when I was a boy. But the big difference is that let's say the primary processes are becoming software processes. So there is one marker which we should have in account when we talk about the digital transformation. Secondly, the reason why you would do that is that you want to be more and more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we do that is because if you take the Fortune 500, and let's say, you know the Fortune 500?
Yes, I do.
When you take that, let's say 30 years ago, then it took about approximately 75 years to get in there, in that list. Now it's about 30 years, 20 years. So you see that I'm always saying the competitor who knocks you down still needs to be founded. That's how fast changes are coming because of technology, but also the fact that we work more and more together internationally. So that's one aspect of digital transformation, is that the dependency on how we distinguish ourselves as companies, but it's also for the public sector, is of course an important factor in the whole matter.
So I'd like to ask what Armana does right now when it comes to change, change, organizational change.
Yeah. Basically, we have, let's say in our ideal customer profile, we have contact at all levels in the organization. So on board level, management and operational level. We often, it starts with a technology question. Yeah, we want to have a new primary system, or we want to be more flexible with our IT, etc., etc. And once you start with that, then you see it's much more a question. It's much more an organizational question than a technology question. I always say the what and how of the what and why. Is more important than the how. I mean. What do we do with change management is basically that on board level we set out a kind of roadmap on things the company wants to achieve. So we really align the business and the IT together. That's step number one, because that basically represents the why. On management level, there we think more about systems, processes, and that's also the big difference between leadership and managing. Leadership is basically manage the people. Management is more thinking of systems, processes, etc. On the operational level, we do primarily adoption, but also to have a bottom-up approach. Sometimes change can come also bottom-up. So we basically guide companies, organizations in that transformation process. But we are not, and the big factor is the why question and the what question. So the what represents basically what milestones as an organization do I want to achieve, and the why is basically more the strategic part, the mission, the vision the company has.
Yeah, I see. So that's mostly when you have clients asking for that help in change management. And let's say Armana Cloud a few years ago and now, would you say that there also has been a change in management, like within Armana itself? So not client speaking, but like Armana itself, like was there some...
Yeah, we also gone through a kind of learning curve. That's why we always had more focus on the why and what question. Mm-hmm. But what you clearly can see is, firstly, generation. You see that more and more people are much more aware about technology and what it can do. So you see also the awareness within management and board level. Secondly, we clearly had to make some choices in what areas of expertise we are good at and which not. Mm-hmm. Where we're good at is the translation from, let's say, business to IT. We are really executioners in that sense that we make a strategy work. Things like financial expertise, organizational expertise, there we often use experts, partners to help us out, but often the customer themselves has partners. So what really has changed is that IT has become more multidisciplinary, basically. And that change I clearly see the last 5 years. A good example is the data protection in the EU. Let's say when it was announced, when it was in the market, so to say, then the focus was really technology. We should secure this, we should secure that. And unfortunately, a lot of negativity came out of that because, you can't do this anymore and that. So an average business owner was thinking, what should I do with this? I mean, I can't do business anymore. Yeah. Finally, the approach came more from a quality point of view, that you say, hey, the data protection is actually a good thing. It tells me basically what kind of information, what kind of data do I now really have to use as an organization. And with that approach that's now emerging, then you see also that people regard it as an organization problem. It took some time, But it's often the case that something is put it in the corner of IT, but it shouldn't be there. And that's a big thing. I mean, in the late 80s, in the beginning 90s, a lot of IT managers had a kind of power position because, it was something, okay, IT, we don't...
Like a big thing,
A big thing, let's put it under the CFO, then we don't spend too much on it, but that's luckily that's history.
So when it comes to change management, when would you say it's the right time to start implementing change?
That's a very good question. Let's say it's not mathematics, not if then else, but often there is a, let's say, a natural change. For example, when organizations decide to renew their infrastructure or to renew their software architecture, then often you can play the game. Let's say, okay, guys, we are now going to do a lot of changes. Is it maybe not a better idea to take another approach and to really from top to bottom, and then I mean organization-wise, to really make that change happen and do certain things step by step. Often changes are also happening too fast. Sometimes you need to do things in a certain order. That's the expertise we also have, that we know by experience. First, change your infrastructure in general before you tackle your applications, which is actually a bit contradictory if you think about the business. But the reason for that is that on the infrastructure level, there are not so many players.
No.
It's Google, it's Amazon, and it's Microsoft. With all due respect for all the other ones, but they are the big players in that field.
Big ones.
So if you first make sure your infrastructure, let's say your road, you look at the road there, if that's fine, then the cars on it can drive. And if you have a car which can't drive on that road, sorry, you're not adapting to the new standard.
Yeah. But now we're speaking of that change, and for instance, you help clients manage that change. Would you say that when a company decides that it's time for them, or they see a change that is happening but they're not doing anything yet with it, would you say that help is necessary when they are experiencing changes or thinking of doing a big change?
It's up to it's a matter of leadership. Sometimes you see that there's a conservative attitude towards technology. Then I can say what I want. If they keep on conservative in the sense that they don't want to adapt the technology, hey, that's their choice. I mean, if they only see IT as a kind of tool and that's it, fine with me. So we basically look at two aspects. First is the phase where an organization is in. You maybe heard of that development curve.
Yeah.
And so if you're more in the entrepreneurial phase, you maybe you probably do things differently. I know for sure you do things differently than when you are, let's say, in the phase where you're more maintaining the business. In that phase, you shouldn't have an entrepreneurial spirit at all. Then you just should make money. So then the focus comes on efficiency. And maybe in the early start, the focus comes more on innovation, trying out new things. That's one aspect. The other aspect is more on the technology side, which is on what maturity level is the organization at this time. Do they still see it as a tool? Or are they seeing it as a business enabler? Or do they actually see it as a strategic asset? Depending on which phase is both, depending on those two factors, basically, you decide what kind of change management policy you're going to apply.
So you've said you've seen a few companies already adapt such changes, and you also definitely consulted on such cases.
Yeah.
So what would you say are like common mistakes that are made during such processes?
The most common mistake is focus on technology only. That's the biggest mistake. That assume we tend to think of solutions. That's very natural.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But often you see is that the jump to a certain solution is made very fast.
Mm-hmm.
On the infrastructure level we talked about before, you can do that. There's basically pick one of the three.
Yeah.
You really need to have serious reasons to choose a private cloud solution. There should be actually very special reasons for that. When it comes to the application side, so business applications, you need to take time, firstly, to decide what kind of applications or what ecosystem you want to have, and they actually have business questions first, which needs to be answered. For example, how do I distinguish myself in the market? What geographic presence do I want to have? How important is security to me, etc. There are some basic questions. They should be answered first. The big mistake is that they often jump, we should take solution X, application Y, and that's our roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then you have to focus too much on the how and less on the why and what. That's actually the biggest mistake. A second mistake, which you often see, is the order of things. Often you see that IT suppliers say, yeah, you had to change now the this and that and that, so you need to change that. Yeah, there we jump in. We really have the expertise to actually say, wait a second, you claim that, but that's not actually, it's not completely true.
Mm-hmm.
We often use gericht, which is a methodology to look at purchase policies, as a kind of reference model to really distinguish what kind of aspects of your IT is strategic, commodity, or leverage or bottleneck. So that's applying gericht. And we look at technology dependencies, the real connections between solution X and solution Y. Those we distinguish, and then you can make a much better roadmap where you're not dependent on the order of technology. Then you can actually make a good compromise in the order of what the organization wants. That's quite a complicated thing.
The first mistake that you named, you said that people focus on that whole technology part a lot.
Yeah.
Why would you think that happens? That they think that that's the main thing and they immediately jump to?
Partly influence of the consumer market. Let's say when I was a boy, IT was still very special. Not everyone had a computer. Now everyone has computers using software. They look at your generation. You can't even imagine that you needed to go to a store to develop your pictures and wait a week. So now you have everything instant. So that's the first part. So we often, and that's have a tendency to compare our IT, which we have at home, with the office. At home my Wi-Fi works always. Why doesn't it work here? We get a lot of solutions via the consumer market dropped. So it's perfectly natural to think in solutions. It's basically a problem or a wish you want to fulfill. So it's a normal thing, but only things are that complicated sometimes that you really need to filter out what, why, how, etc.
No, but now that I'm having this conversation, I see that change management is quite a big thing. I did not consider it to be as big. I think when I just hear about it, I just say, some changes here and there. But it's actually much more complex than what and I think a lot of students would agree with me that we wouldn't consider it to be such big thing and such hard thing to actually do. It's not as easy as it sounds. Change management, we're going to change a few things here, a few things there. But it's much more than that, and it's not just changing a few programs, or it actually is a long process where you have to make good choices.
Absolutely.
So.
Let's say there are, which maybe because we do it in English, so hopefully more people outside the Netherlands are watching this, and One big game changer is, of course, a 5G network.
Yeah.
You see in Europe that the Netherlands, Scandinavia, UK, they are really the cloud countries, so to say. Countries like Germany are behind when it comes to cloud thinking. Just to see that in a daily life, in Holland, but also in the UK, you can pay your loaf of bread with a credit card.
Yeah.
Almost unthinkable in Germany to do that. Why is that? Because internet is not as widely spread as you might think. But knowing the Germans, they when they need to catch up, they do it in the right way. But 5G gives them a possibility to really expand their services. We actually are with Armana have an interest in Germany, so we're going to next year do some activities over there, because we see a huge potential for us to do more business in Germany. And why is that? Is Germany not aware of those? No, that's not the case, but it's much more complicated in a country like Germany to have, let's say, country-wide internet. And why is that? First, the nature of the country itself. It's a federation, that one. Also has to do with actually the rock bottom they are on, often. It is a bit more difficult. That's why in Holland we have already for years we have good internet. Why is it good in the Scandinavian countries? They are often governed by a social democrat government, and they have in general the attitude, if we do something for one person, we should do it for everyone. So in the 90s, for example, in Sweden, when they introduced broadband, it was not only in the big cities like Gothenburg, Malmö and Stockholm.
It was everywhere.
Everywhere. So also the person in Lapland, in a matter of speaking. But it was adopted for the whole country, and that's one of the reasons. And the UK has been a credit card country for many years. So for them, those infrastructures were also already present. So a big development will be also regarding in change management, and that's why it's a good opportunity for us, is to also look at those countries which are a bit behind now and need to catching up to do when it comes to cloud.
Okay, I have one more question. We have been speaking mostly about digital technology right now when it comes to change management, but what would you say about changing people overall? What do other people think when we're speaking about this subject?
Do you mean to manage the people in that change, or what do you mean?
As well, but I think others people's opinions, like you work with many people of different ages, so how do they react to when you speak about such changes? Because to some it might seem extreme, for instance, some things that...
Okay, now I have to be a bit careful here. When you talk about generations, your generation, piece of cake. You adopted with that technology, so no problem. The generation of, let's say, my age is a bit more challenging, because you see that technology, IT technology, is often seen as a threat.
As a threat, yeah.
That it maybe can take my job, or we are going to in an area we don't fully understand. So there's a kind of fear. When it comes to adopting, we have an expertise in that. Often when you do it in the right methodology, then you can manage that. Something which worries me a bit is that the whole AI discussion is, almost. Do you know the movie Terminator?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, it's in a kind of Terminator. Oh, the machines are going to take us over. Yeah, there shouldn't be the discussion at all.
No.
Let's say our problems in the world are becoming more and more complex. We need the AI to survive. Think of global warming, think on the medical area. We're actually using AI without knowing it. And I really hope the discussion of AI is much more, what kind of jobs are we going to create? And they are more on the area of creativity, more in the area of skills, and you will see that some kind of jobs, especially in the financial area, they will disappear.
Yeah.
They will be automated away. Yeah, is that a threat to those people? Yes, but you can adapt to that change.
Yeah, there will be other jobs.
There are always other opportunities. The same thing happened when the steam trains, when they were invented.
Yeah.
Our women will not get pregnant anymore. Our soldiers will be too lazy. All that things were said when it comes to technology. But now we're living in an age where changes are much faster than they used to be. So I think it's really a responsibility of politicians to lead us in that discussion, in the AI discussion, the right way. And do you need to use then the big companies for that? Absolutely. The Microsofts, the Googles, the Amazons. But they are taking the responsibility as far as I can judge. It's now more in the public arena that the discussion should be discussed the right way. But like I said, your generation, no
That's
problem at
easier,
all.
yeah. But you also mentioned AI, and I think the first time I've heard of AI, I was astonished. Like it's a pretty big thing, but I wasn't even aware that I was using it so many times before actually hearing the name, what it is. So I feel like a lot of people are just not even aware that it's already so deep in their lives. That they're using it pretty much every day, but they think that it's such a threat because they're not. Nobody explains it actually, like to them what it is. So
that's true. Something you don't know is often regarded as a threat. Let's say the big AI is already actually an old field of expertise. It's, if I'm not mistaken, from the 1950s.
Yeah.
I think a Canadian university started first to say something like AI, and they did some research on it. The big change came, let's say, in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, when deep learning was really taking its development, and that really has changed the way we use AI. So instead of building in technology into the software, of actually intelligence into the software, let's take, so basically the human decides what the software should do. We changed to let the software interpret data. That's a big game changer. Do they think, will AI take over certain things we do? Yeah, of course. But there are new things, new challenges, new things to. We go to Mars.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
So there's still too many things to deal with. So we shouldn't be so worried about technology.
No, I agree, definitely. Yeah, I don't really have any more questions now, but this was a great conversation.
Thank you, and let's take to the next step. So thank you for your time, and we hope people enjoyed it.
Yes, I hope so, yeah.
Bedankt voor het luisteren naar IT Blobs. Heb jij nog vragen over dit onderwerp? Laat het dan weten in de comments of contacteer ons via onze social media of ga naar onze website.